name's Al Hill. I'm here wearing a couple of hats. One of those hats is the Volusia County, Central Florida GIS manager. We are big data consumers and data creators. I'm also here as a member of the Central Florida GIS Workshop. We got a grant from the FGDC to talk about metadata. They had to pay us to talk about metadata because it's not a very exciting subject. So I'm here to talk about data and where data comes from, who's got it, and how can you find it. There's a lot of data out there. We create and have got on our website a couple of hundred layers of data, local data for our jurisdiction. But it's been turned out that about 75% of GIS operations that create information don't document it so that it can be used, so that it can be found, so that it can be shared regionally by different organizations. There's a lot of good places out there that do document data. The Central Florida GIS Workshop, or rather Central Florida GIS Data Portal, the Geospatial One Stop, the Links Regional Transportation Authority website has data. One of my favorites is the Florida Geographic Data Library. They've got a lot of Florida data available, and it's all very well documented. There's a good metadata search engine attached to it. So there's a lot of data out there, but the quality and ease of use and access can be really problematic. But metadata is more than just data about your data. That's what we typically hear. But it's more about communicating your business standards. And by that I mean how you collect it, how you manage it, how you store it, how you make it available to people. In this way, metadata can be considered a business investment. If I create a layer of data and I don't tell people where I got it, how I processed it, and how I maintain it, and I get hit by a bus, that layer of data could die with me. But more than just business processes, here tonight I want to talk about metadata where it does refer to data. And in that case, what should you collect for documentation and what should you present? Data elements, what it's all about. Distribution elements, how can you get it, right? And what are the hours? Can you get it from the web? Do you have to call me? Those sorts of things. So between those two pieces of information, there's a lot of documentation to be collected. We do it in two ways. We have simple metadata for dummies, if you will, that we put on our website for the public because we deal with people not really used to GIS data. But we also create more authoritative data in XML format that we package and ship with the data. Even simple metadata, though, should have all of the elements of FGDC compliant metadata. And that's easy to do. The who, what, where, when, and why of your data should be available so that people, before they use it, can evaluate it. Things like the projection, what fields are present, what data schemas you use. All of that information should be immediately available to the public or your data customers so that they know that they can use it for their own purposes. So simple or complex metadata, it's up to you. You should document your data, but do you have to? That's what I get asked a lot. If you're in the private sector, you probably get away without doing it, unless you go for grants or things like that. But in the public sector, you're required to have metadata. The Department of State in April 2010 said you need to have metadata available, as well as archiving your GIS data layers. But metadata is changing. It's going between the old FGDC standard and the new ISO 19115 standard. That difference, the 19115 standard, is also being modified with something called the North American Profile. So that old FGDC standard, which we've used since 1994, is changing so that the ISO standard is more cross-boundary, cross-national jurisdictional boundaries. One important thing that we can do to bridge that gap is use the ISO 19115 topic category theme keywords, even in our existing FGDC metadata. Just the way you see them here, the topic categories with all their funny spellings and underscores and whatnot, if you include those in your keywords, then you're actually becoming ISO standard compliant. So if you include those keywords, it's a start at least. But then the question is, if the standards are changing, if we've used FGDC and now we're supposed to go to ISO, which do we use? Well, it depends. If you've got FGDC compliant metadata, keep it up. If you don't, start with the new ISO standard. If you do have FGDC data, use the keywords, and that's a start. Something I've heard a couple of times tonight, which is interesting, is authoritative data. Well, this is basically meant to cover authoritative data requirements. But there's a whole lot of non-authoritative data out there, and I don't know how that's documented. I don't know if I can use it for some of my purposes. So, useful data shouldn't be secret. Share the wealth, document your data and methods, and if you've got questions, I'll be around tonight and tomorrow, so maybe we can talk about metadata. Thanks very much.